welcome to the Amiga Ireland podcast. I'm Jarlath.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Rob.
It feels like a long time since we've been chatting, lads. Luke, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been still watching pictures and videos from the recent AMI party, the party that was held in Poland in a town called Helm, so I'm still impressed with the videos, with the pictures, with the atmosphere. So the links will be in the description notes, of course.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Amiga Bill's video.
Me too.
Yeah, I was watching some of his little posts that he's been making. It looked a pretty epic trip.
I'm sure it was.
How about you, Rob? How are you doing?
I'm alright. I have got my first big box Amiga. So I'm now a proud owner of an Amiga 2000. That's all kitted out. Needs a little bit of love and care, but sure, someday I'll get it up and running again. And then, yeah, I had a very tricky repair over the last while. And I said I wasn't really doing repairs, but there's a guy local enough to me, so I said I would. Eventually got there, and now he's a happy bunny, so hi Chris. And yeah, he's now got his 600 up and running again. This nice little WHD load machine. So that's been about it for me.
Good stuff. It's been Heritage Week here in Ireland, and in Galway alone here in the west where I live, there's been some great outdoor and indoor events, but one of them was a retro gaming event in the Computer and Communication Museum of Ireland, so that was really nice. They did a great revamp of the place. There's a Commodore and Amiga section, and they've done up proper signage, for it, and they've gotten, the Commodore 64 floppy drive, Commodore 64, VIC-20, Amiga 500.
Sounds good. I'd love to lend a hand, but not exactly local.
They had other stuff too, like a Atari 2600s, and they had the new kind of modern Ataris, the wireless ones, that still have the DB9 joystick ports on them. They had old Spectrum, old Sinclair computers, the first Apple Mac, the first IBM PC, and those kind of clones, and also the Morse code kind of machines and things like that. Yeah, it was a cool display.
Awesome.
Will we head for the news?
Go for it.
A new issue of KA Plus magazine has been released. It's issue 8, and KA Plus is a magazine published in English and Polish languages, and it comes out once per quarter. It's an absolutely gorgeous magazine. Mine is in the post on the way, but I've seen a preview of some of the pages. So well done to the guys there. It's an impressive release.
A lot of work has been done if it comes to that magazine. It looks really well.
Every page I look at, every article I read, I just think, my God, the amount of work that's gone into this.
Yeah.
In terms of even just the layout, and it's cool.
Very polished. Vampire version 4 has just been announced. The Vampire 4 is made with a standard one designed to fit them all, and comes in 3 flavors depending on customers' need. The Vampire V4 standalone system, the Vampire V4 for Amiga Classic compatible with Amiga 1000, 500, 2000 CD TV, and Amiga 600 with keepers adapter. Also, the third incarnation would be the Vampire V4 for Amiga 1200, and the system will be even more powerful than the previous incarnations. So this is a really interesting news item, guys, I think, because this opens up new possibilities and brings even more new life to classic community, actually. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. I think they've been working sort of towards a standalone system for quite a while. And, when you look at the more recent cores that they've released with AGA emulation and stuff, the Amiga itself is little more than a power supply in a case at this stage. So, it kind of makes sense to move it onto a standalone, so you're no longer dependent on the old parts.
And the motherboard looks pretty decent, I must say, as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So the link to that will be in the show notes as well.
I wonder if they'll aim to, make it fit inside the new A1200 cases and stuff like that at some point.
You mean the desktop one? The other, like the 1200 tower system. I'm sure it'll fit in that, but hard for me to say, actually.
The console case, like the original 1200 case, or the replacement original 1200 case, if you like, kind of predates the Vampire V4, so it's probably already sort of set in stone, as it were. The mounting points and the moldings, because I know they had mounting, or I believe they had mounting points for a Raspberry Pi in that case.
Yes.
So so it was, if they had known the dimensions of the Vampire before that, I'm sure they would have included it. But I think it might be a case of having to improvise there. I'm sure it'll fit physically because it's only a small board. Probably just as simple as, 3D printing a little bracket or something, or like I say, just a bit of Velcro. Be grand. But yeah, I'm sure it'll fit if with a little bit of work.
And I'm sure the demand will be just absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, but this one's going to be produced, in an actual assembly house, which means hopefully they'll be able to keep up with demand a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And then you won't have, people queuing up for months. But yeah, that's brilliant. It's just like a new machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so, speaking of the new versions of machines, I think we talked about it last month, did we? The C64 Reloaded Mark II.
Yes.
The pre-orders for that have just started, and that is available to put in your pre-order on the individual computer's website. So the link is in the show notes.
Yeah.
And also, Laurent Zaraski of A-Media Computers France has been interviewed by Obligement. The interview was in French, but we've got a link here, which is just basically a crude Google Translate job. But you can read the interview because it's actually very interesting. He talks about running possibly one of the only real Amiga computer shops that you can actually walk into and buy stuff, pay at the till and walk out again, which is pretty cool. And he has some kind of interesting suggestions on upgrades for certain situations, like if you're just into games with WHD load or something else. So fair play to the guys. It's a good interview. It was a nice read.
Good stuff. Jazzcat has released an EP. This guy is basically coming from the demo scene, and it's some nice sort of synthy music. It reminds me of Crazy P. I don't know if anyone knows that guy. But it's well worth a listen.
He's one of the guys who is responsible for music for demos like, for example, Sunglasses at Night. Mm-hmm. He's got a very long history of demo scene because he's Polish, and he's been creating music for Ghost and Appendix. So a very talented guy, I must say.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, the music is really in my opinion, sounds really, really modern. If you like that sort of music, I'm sure you'll just love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
On Amitopia.com, a new word processor has been released for Morphos, and they've done it in a very interesting way. It's actually a file that runs in your web browser. So you'd be opening this with the web browser on Morphos and running it there. And it looks quite good. I haven't had a chance to use it yet. I'm assuming it'll work on other systems too, because it's using web languages, like CSS and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's available now for download on Amitopia. And also oldservers.net. We spoke about oldservers.net on the first episode, I think, of the podcast. I think Stephen is in County Down, if I have it right. And he's got an amazing online museum where you can browse all the old computers he has. So Steve would kind of, we'd be kind of kindred spirits in the way that we like to see the machines powered on and used, as opposed to just, on presentation or anything like that.
Stuffed and mounted, as we say.
Yeah, taxidermied, Yeah, so he has them all powered up and networked, all these old machines, and
brilliant.
He has a C64 there, and he has added a visitor map to it. So now when you visit the C64 on the website, you can actually, the web page is served by a C64, and there's a map there that shows you where the other visitors to the C64 server are coming from, which is brilliant. I don't know, it just puts a smile on my face. So it's an unmodified Commodore 64 besides the actual network card, and it's running the Contiki web server. And there are a lot of other machines as well, including Macs, and they provide other services too, like FTP. You can download images and things like this off certain ones. So it's well worth checking out, oldservers.net. Well done, Steve. You did a great job there.
Absolutely.
Impressive. Really impressive.
Okay, will we move on to the games?
Yeah.
In gaming news, I've been using a bit more of Amiga Live lately. So I played with Peter of Sordan.ie. We played a few different games. One we had difficulty with was Settlers. So I was talking to John Kayanas, the developer of Amiga Live. So he's since fixed an issue which was affecting mixed operating systems. So I was playing on the Linux client, and my friend Peter was playing on a Windows client, so we couldn't play with each other. Even though I could play with other Linux people, he could play with other Windows people. John has also improved the performance of the game for Wi-Fi gamers. So even though they strongly recommend you use Ethernet, sometimes Wi-Fi is the only real option. So it's working better now for Wi-Fi, which is cool. Thanks, John, for a speedy response. That's all I have in gaming news at the moment. I don't know if there's been much on, but if there is, I haven't spotted it. Let's move on to discoveries.
while browsing Polish Amiga portals and exec.pl, I've encountered a cute little Pepsi advert from 1992, which had been done using Deluxe Paint, Amiga 2000 and Video Toaster. And I must say, for 1992, beginning of the 90s, it looks really, really impressive. And I strongly encourage you to have a look, because it is so great and it shows how's Amiga way ahead of its time if it comes to multimedia. Thanks, Shaman from exec.pl for finding that little advert.
Lovely. The mastersofpixelart.com is a website where you can buy a book called The Masters of Pixel Art. It has pixel art from a range of different systems, including stuff we'd be familiar with too. It includes the 8-bit color images from art and games and stuff like that. And this one is really beautiful.
It seems that Commodore 64 has been a favorite machine if it comes to tinkerers, because we've got another C64 Wi-Fi modem, and this one just again does the job, connects your favorite old C64 into a Wi-Fi network and allows you to, like Telnet or BBS to a lot of the BBSs all around the world.
It's incredible, isn't it, the activity?
Absolutely.
I found something which has piqued my interest. So an operating system that you can install on your laptop or in a virtual machine called Commodore OS. This is a Linux-based system, and it boots up to a desktop that's been themed with a Commodore-inspired look to it, and also application selection and all that. It's got the Commodore, emulators for the Commodore 64 and 16, 128 and the PET and all that built in. It's very blue. The videos are interesting. They've got some cool visual effects going on, and it won't be for everybody, but if you visit their website, the link is in the show notes. It's well worth checking out, just to have a look, because they have some decent screenshots on the homepage where you can see everything and download it. And there's a video actually embedded on the homepage too, so you'll get a good idea of it. It's pretty cool, to be honest. I'd be tempted if I didn't have so much work to do on my PC that I'm terrified of actually changing anything on it.
Was this the system that Commodore USA came up with a while ago? Or a few years ago now at this stage?
Yeah, I remember it as well, I think.
They went a bit crazy and started releasing Commodore and Amiga branded PCs. Now, and they had this OS on them, which is fine, but they kind of sort of self-proclaimed as the new Amiga. It was a bit of a funny one. The OS kind of skins and all that look nice.
Yeah, it is by Commodore USA.
Yeah. It
is basically Linux with a lot of tweaks. So there's definitely you're standing on the shoulders of giants here, and they're not the Commodore giants either.
They did not write their own OS. Let's be clear.
Yeah,
that was an interesting episode, I suppose. It's good to see that that's still there anyway. The OS.
And because it's based on Linux, it's a Deb-based system. If I install this, I would actually be able to install all the apps that I need, like LibreOffice, Audacity. Actually, everything that we use to record this podcast too would run on this.
If you know how to solder and you can read diagrams if it comes to, electronics, you can actually build your own C64 Wi-Fi modem. How surprising. And it seems that it's really inexpensive. It's around 10-15 American dollars. So It's a very tempting thing. Rob, would you like to give it a go?
There are many things I'd like to give a go, but
I know, but the time is the issue, probably.
Yeah. But if I can follow a diagram and stick something together if you want, yeah. No problem.
Nice, really nice.
I found a website called amiga-look.org. I love this site. I don't know if you already knew it existed, but for Linux, there's already things like GNOME Look and KDE Look, and basically they provide wallpapers, icon packs, a new mouse arrow. You can skin your mouse arrow, and there's usually fonts and things like this on these sites. So this one is all Amiga related, and some of the stuff you could use on any system, like the wallpapers and stuff, but there are some OS4 specific stuff. It's quite nice. They have things in all kinds of categories: backdrops, themes, icons, GUI, pointers, skins. So if you have an Amiga OS machine and you want to dicky it up a bit, or if you just have a normal, you don't have an Amiga machine but you'd like to give it a bit of an Amiga kind of accent, you could definitely pull a nice wallpaper or two out of here.
If you like demo scene and you are a bit of a coder as well, generationamiga.com has just, recently found 50 intros that are written in assembler. All that source code of these intros has been just released. Apart from the source code, there are loads of demo effects like shaded bobs, glance vectors, checker fields, Dragon Balls, trays, vectors, sign scrollers, and much, much more. So if you'd like a tutorial on how to build or how to code your own intro or demo, or how to incorporate some of the effects that's really crucial if it comes to demos, why not take a look down there? I'm sure you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, that's cool. You learn a lot about Amiga hardware looking at that stuff, I'd say.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's stuff that uses the hardware to the absolute max.
Yeah, pushes it to its limits.
Yeah, it's a great reference.
Jope on the English Amiga board posted an interesting eBay listing. It's a Commodore Amiga development system. It's kind of a black box thing with a keyboard. It looks a little like an Amiga for sure. It doesn't look though like anything we'd have bought back in the day. It has ended with a winning bid of £16,100 sterling.
I was keeping an eye on that as well. It's a very historic piece of equipment. Who has 16 grand?
I wonder, is it going to a private collection or a public one? But it was being sold out of Copenhagen in Denmark. And it was a pre-production system, and it was sold as not tested. So I would say whoever got it has the means to fix it possibly. Well, I'd hope anyway. You'd
hope, or else stuffing it and mounting it somewhere. But yeah, no, it's stuff like that. If it's not working, you find it's very hard to get working because there's little to no documentation on it. But yeah, if someone does have the knowledge, it'll be an interesting project. And as I scroll further down the page here, there's all kinds of nice goodies for Amiga, or Amiga related stuff you can buy. So be careful if you're an impulsive shopper. Yeah, you might also like. Yeah. Okay, so this is Mac-like dock. Now I haven't installed this myself, but it's been showing up on a couple of people's sites now, and people have used it for high-end classic systems, and it basically gives you a dock bar that's behaves similarly to the OS X dock. So if anyone's familiar with Mac OS X, you'll know that the dock at the bottom, where if you hover, it's sort of, as you get closer to an icon, it gets larger, and the icons are scaled according to the position of the mouse, and it works really, really well. And obviously that very clever it is, and now obviously that kind of thing needs a lot of processing power. But if you've got a Vampired Classic, it's well worth a look.
Yeah. I still use my a tool manager. Really does the job.
Oh, with the little text buttons.
Yeah. Both and pictures as well.
Oh yeah. That's the thing. Back in the day, I had Directory Opus installed, and that was fine.
That's fine as well. Yeah.
Lots of it, but you need something if you spent a lot of money on powerful hardware, or you want something to show it off. That's one of these eye candy things, and to be fair, it does look really, really cool,
and it does the job as well.
Yeah.
The Amiga Graphics Archive website has some lovely treats there. So I discovered this when I was looking for level maps for Flashback, and they have every level completely mapped out. Flashback is such an immersive kind of adventurous game that the level design and the graphics and the art that the French team did, they've always stuck with me as amazing. So I'm planning on printing these out actually, and possibly wallpapering one wall of the room with it. Just enlarging them slightly. So but they've got all kinds of stuff here. They've got Amiga art, just stuff that people would have done with graphic tools like D-Paint or whatever, and they've got some game art rips as well, stuff like that, like complete level maps where all of the screens have been screenshotted and then stitched together. It's definitely worth checking out. The URL is a bit of a mouthful to give over the air, but the link will be in the show notes. Very good. Yeah, Flashback was always a favourite of mine back in the day.
Mine too. A really great one. Cyberpunk feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a remake actually of Flashback.
Yes.
Not the sequel in 3D, but a remake of the original game.
Just like Flashback HD kind of thing.
No. It was actually, I think it was actually, like HD version, and it was, the levels were nearly identical, but the controls were awful, terrible. But I think it was it was for PC and PlayStation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a pity.
Yeah.
Because it looks fantastic. It's kind of that. Did you ever play that game Rock Hard? Rock Hard or Rushard?
No.
It's kind of a platform, I guess. It looks a bit like it's the same perspective as Flashback, because you're looking from the side, but there's sort of a false 3D thing the way the background passes.
Oh, I know what you mean. 2.5D, just something like Little Big Planet, for example. I know what you mean.
If we're talking about a different one, then maybe this one is still worth playing.
Maybe.
It's actually made by Eric. Is it Eric Chahai? Was that his name? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a complete remake of the game using modern gaming development tools by the original developers.
Very good. Very good. A little bit of new hardware that's been released by Rasport.com, and it's a headphone amplifier, but it's been made specifically with the Amiga in mind by including a crossfade feature on the stereo channels. Now, if anyone's listen to the Amiga output directly on headphones, you'll know that it's very hard separation. So the left is only left and the right is only right, and and there's nothing in between. So it's a sort of almost like theoretical stereo. It's just very extreme, and so you need to sort of bring a certain amount back in and have a bit of crossfade to make it a bit more bearable. And so this is a headphone amp will do that, and it looks like a very high quality unit. And it's should sort that out. Yeah,
I remember the first time I was doing the Amiga, I didn't have anything else to put it into except headphones, and my God, I forget what game it was, but geez, I thought my brain was going to explode. Yeah. You can buy that on sordan.ie if you're based in Ireland, and the postage is free, and it's around the €70 mark if I remember right, and it's a very nice looking piece of kit. Also, if you're technically inclined and you've got free time, Miss Mad Lemon has actually done a video of this on her YouTube channel where she designs the circuit, on a whiteboard, and she explains why she's putting in the transistors and capacitors where she is, and then she does it on a breadboard to test it, solders it, builds it and installs it. She's a mighty woman.
Very good, very good.
There has been a laser upgrade for Amiga mice made available, and I've seen a video, I think there's two videos actually in an article online. So one is on amigalove.com, documents it, and he has a video showing the installation as well. And also Christoph from Amicast has a really good video showing the whole installation process, and that link will be in the show notes too. I'm debating whether or not to get one. My own tank mouse just wasn't really, for the games that really needed precision mouse movement like Lemmings, my old tank mouse just wasn't up to it. So maybe this is a way to get it back to life instead of using this awful Microsoft thing I'm looking at now.
Yeah, that looks really interesting, like as a little bit of hardware that's keeps the RSI inducing shape of the tank mouse. But it's a really nice bit of hardware, and there's one for the newer Amiga Technologies type mouse as well. That I'm sure I saw somewhere, but yeah, the same idea basically. It fits in instead of the ball. Recently been using a ball mouse as well, quite heavily, and I think maybe it's rose tinted glasses, but I think they were better when the ball was like fresh. Maybe that's what's making them feel worse now. It's like it seems to constantly slip in one direction, even though the rollers are clear, and I just think the coating's possibly slippy on the ball or something.
Actually, do you know something that you mentioned? That I sold computers for years in a shop in Galway, and now that you mentioned, when we unpackaged the new machines, the rollers when I was putting the roller ball into the mice, the grip on them was amazing. And I haven't actually seen it on any mice outside of the shop, so you're probably right that that grip is a new thing. And
if you think a mouse has been rolling around for 20 years, it's probably worn smooth.
Yeah, it's been well smoothened out. Yeah, so that'll be the next Amiga product. We'll probably see.
New ball.
New coating for the ball. Ball, yeah.
Don't worry, you still have 6 lives left.
Another thing I came across, a tip from Alan Ullman. Alan's a great guy for the Amiga Ireland event. He's brought the first Amiga Ireland event. He turned up and he brought an OS4 machine down with him. It was the only one we had there on the day. And he was demoing some graphics applications and stuff like that. So Alan was talking about this run-in DOSBox application that's available. So on OS4 at the moment, you can actually run, and it works on Morphos as well, and AROS. So DOSBox lets you run old DOS games, like you could run Destruction Derby and, Duke Nukem and things like that, and all those DOS games. And, older ones, Prince of Persia. So I didn't realize this was actually available for Amiga at all. So this is great. There's a whole suite of little games that you can run on your Amiga if you're into that.
And with the OS4 machines, you kind of have enough power to run them reasonably well, because you're really talking about emulating a 386 in some cases. A lot of games are made for 386 and 486, and they'll run fine. And
actually, speaking of the OS4 machines, I was looking at the X5000 on Amiga computers. It's $2,000 for an X5000. That is not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not cheap, but it's.
But then again, you look, someone's supposed to spend $16,000 on a developer system that didn't even work. So, yeah. Like as custom hardware goes, $2,000 isn't that bad. Like compared to a PC that's producing millions, it's terrible. But
buy it, keep it, and it'll be worth 20,000.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's custom hardware, it's niche software, and it's got an app store. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I always think you see people putting it down on that, but in my old job, I was buying in. These computers were 386s, so we had this dual 386 machine, and the boards on that were £500-600 alone just for the motherboard. And you're like, what? And the thing had two of them. You're like, it's a 386. What are you doing? But that's how much it costs.
I've my mind set on the A1222, which would be, he wants to have them at €400. He wants to sell them at cost. Mm-hmm. But I think he was saying that at the event that, some of his business partners don't want to be quite that frugal about how they price them.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, consider the X5000 at all, but now... Mm-hmm. In other news, Amiga Wave is a channel on YouTube, and it's actually, last week we spoke about the Twitter handle for Jojo073, who tweets images of really great art he does on Deluxe Paint. But on this channel, Amiga Wave on YouTube, he actually records the entire drawing process from the beginning to end. And I think, Rob, you were saying earlier, he actually live streams them too sometimes.
Yes, yeah. Very talented guy.
Yeah, he really is. I love the Terminator one of Arnie with the eyepiece. When I was a teenager, I had a T-shirt of that. It was Arnie's head with the eye missing and the red thing and the metal eye socket kind of coming through. I absolutely love that image. So he's done one of those. But he puts up the screenshot with the Deluxe Paint banner across the top and the palette down the right-hand side, which I think is brilliant.
It's literally a screen grab of his work.
Great technique, I must say, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to community news and events.
So if it comes to past events, we had Ami Party in home in Poland, and it was a 3-day party regarding retro computers, not only Amigas but Commodores, ZX Spectrums, Ataris, and many more consoles as well. And in the show notes you'll find the links to Home Media Legion site, Facebook profile, Twitter, and apart from that, great pictures by Homer, Amiga Bill, Stony, Jack Świdnik, and also a video of main events done by Marks, and 200 megabytes of productions. So modules, multi-channel modules, pictures, demos, and wild demos as well. So if you have a lot of time and you'd like to see how we party in Poland actually, why not take a look? You'd love it.
I'm going to be there next time.
Please do. I look forward to both of you guys.
My wife and our 10-year-old are going. They're going to be there, and they're going to see some of the country while I hang out with you guys. So
Helm is a very nice town, really, really.
on upcoming event, we have Data Storm Summer happening, and you can get the details at datastorm.party. The location is in the city of Gothenburg on the Swedish west coast. The city is easy to reach through 2 international airports, ferry, train or car. The entrance fee is €48, and there are a limited number of discounted early bird tickets for €41. And that's only available by pre-sale. The event is happening through September 1st to 3rd, 2017. And I'm sure it'll be a great event if the previous ones are anything to go by.
They used to have one event only, and it was in winter, and now they've extended to 2, so they must be doing really well. And I always wanted to visit Sweden and see how the Swedish guys party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear they can party.
Mm-hmm.
One day, guys.
Yeah, we'll have to go on tour.
Don't forget to take some ABBA CDs.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'll appreciate that. Okay, in November we've got the Alchemy party coming up. That's a demo party in France. That's the weekend of the 12th of November. Tickets are available on the website, which is in the show notes.
Okay, let's move on to the sports desk.
Go!
Okay, sports desk. We have no sports desk this month, so yes. I'm afraid we didn't get our regular update from the Sensible Soccer guys, but just as an aside, I was having a quick look at the website, and purely statistics-wise, Playavelli, he's generally up the top of all the leagues. He has played 9,043 games on in the SWAS leagues on the Amiga. That's
oh my God.
That's some dedication.
That's a lot.
Playavelli, you're a machine.
So maybe that's why we haven't got the update this month, because he's too busy playing SWAS.
He should be called now Machinavelli.
Absolutely. There you go.
Amazing. Yeah. I bet you, we're going to get Playavelli on the show someday. We have to have a chat with him. But I bet you Playavelli has had a SWAS dream once.
I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Ask Amiga.
Go!
Okay, there's a question on Stack Exchange about creating new languages on Amiga OS. And well, generally there's been a few suggestions, and one approach is to basically hack these files, to sort of take an existing language and just sort of hex edit it to fit. That's it more or less works basically. If all you have to do is adjust your checksums if there are any, and that should be it. But really, I think this is the kind of thing that there should be an easy editor for, and maybe that's a project for another rainy day. But essentially the most of the language files are just standard IFF files with specific data types in them that describe things like the decimal separator, the thousand separator, the currency values, time standards, things like that. But there is sort of a querying file as well, there's sort of like a master file. So that's kind of the tricky bit that has to be made. But as I said, without sort of easily accessible tools, possibly hex editing an existing one. And you can see examples of that on Aminet. There are a few languages that have been completely produced from scratch by hex editing the master files, and then once you've done that, you can just use any catalog editor. Like the Amiga Native Developers Kit has some command line tools for creating libraries or creating locale files, and but there's also SimpleCat, which is a very, very nice GUI driven locale file editor, and it's really easy to use. And you can take an existing file and edit it to make a new language. Just take let's say a German file and edit it and put in your own strings to make French. That kind of thing. It's very, very useful and very handy to have. So that's is that the one you were telling me about previously that I was using? Yeah, and that's it. And I've used it for a couple of my projects as well.
Yeah, that was actually okay. That's actually a brilliant little tool. And one question I had for you was, how do you avoid collisions? So let's say I open a French one and change it to Gaeilge Irish and save it and install it. Then will that override the French one, or what's the differential piece?
You have to save that as the Irish locale file. So you make a copy of the French one if you like and rename it to Gaeilge. So what happens is when a program loads and we'll just go back a step a bit. When you choose a locale, it sets sort of a language string, and that'll be maybe Irish or Gaeilge, depending on the setup. I think in OS3, it's the English name of the language, and in OS4, it's the native name of the language, if you get me. I think, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember now. But anyway, you just, have a look at the other languages that are available as an example. And then, so if you make a copy of the French, like a French catalog file, call it Gaeilge or Irish, and then load it into Simplecat, you can edit the strings there, and there won't be any collisions. So because when the operating system loads an executable that supports locale, it will take care of that automatically. So it'll check what's the currently used language, or what's the highest priority used language, and if it finds Irish there, it will look for a catalog in the Irish folder for that program, and that's it. So that's it won't consider French. It won't look at French unless French is another language after it doesn't find the Irish. So it's about getting the right name for the file and matching that to the name that the OS is looking for.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll be a nice little project then. I'll have my Amiga running OS Gaeilge soon.
Mm-hmm. Like I think I said to you before, I was very impressed that OS4 comes with the basic Gaeilge language descriptor, which is great. So you get your, if most of the stuff isn't there, but if you open sort of the days of the week, if you open the calendar applications or whatever, they have Irish names on the days and the months, which is very impressive.
And is there a difference between making the language available for other applications to use and actually having the language in the native menus for Workbench, like Snapshot, Windows Snapshot, all that kind of stuff?
No,
is it all the same?
It's all the same, and it's all like a lot of the stuff in Amiga land. It's very elegantly done, and it's the Workbench has its own catalog file, and you just modify that as you need to. That's it, and it treats Workbench like any other program.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Rob. Let's go on and take a look at the polls. So our most recent poll participation has dropped to 25 voters. I don't know what happened, guys. Hopefully you're just on summer holidays, and we'll see you back to our usual higher levels of participation. Our last question was, what kind of monitor do you prefer to use on your classic computer? We had 25 voters, and the winning vote it was 32% was LED displays. And then second place was CRT. Third place was LCD. A good deal is better than no deal.
They were joint actually. So CRT and LCD had the same number of votes.
You're right, actually. Yeah, about 24%. OLED came next, which is third place then, I guess. And Plasma came last, so the fancy pantses are in the 8th percentile.
They don't know what they're missing.
Yeah. So, have we another poll?
Yes, we have. Another poll is, which Amiga system do you love? Classic Amiga OS 68K, OS4 A01 machines, AROS, MorphOS, or other, Linux, NetBSD, etc. So, which one would you choose, Jay? Multiple choice, remember.
That's a really hard choice. I love possibly the classic. The only thing about the classic is the thing is with the modern offerings, right, like OS4, AROS, MorphOS, you can do modern tasks that you actually need to do that you just can't do on a 68K machine. Like, so they've got appeal there. So I would probably personally pick Classic and one other at least. I love OS4 because it just feels and looks like an Amiga, as no matter where you go, even if you go into the shell and the ARX scripting or whatever, everywhere you go, it's still Amiga. I love AROS because it's so accessible, because it's open source, it's a free download. You can run it in a VM on your laptop, or you can install it on an old laptop and make it a dedicated machine. It's great.
What about you, Rob?
For me, well, I think, like I'll always have a soft spot for the classics. So it'd be 68K, but it'd be OS4 as well. Like, the two of them get the most use, from my point of view. And then, but I do have a MorphOS machine as well. So I have MorphOS on the laptop here, which is very handy for when you're on the move and want to do a bit of coding. And it's lovely. But, I do have, NetBSD, or one of the BSDs anyway, so long since I used it I can't remember, but it is still installed on my 1200, and I did have it at one stage, a multi-booting 1200 that would go into BSD when I wanted to. It was a painful experience, I have to say, because the last time I tried it, there was no graphics card support, so it was doing anything other than console on AGA was just painful.
Must have been really challenging to set it up.
Yeah, but I was a student and I had loads of free time, and it was like, what can I challenge myself with? And that's what I do. So
I like that sort of challenges as well, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because you can.
Yeah, just because you can.
Yeah. But I don't think I'd be counting that, because I think it's at least 15 years since I booted that partition, so we'll leave it. Mm-hmm.
Right, my choice would be also classic Amiga, and I think I'd go for MorphOS. Actually, I've had a lot of experience in the past if it comes to MorphOS. Although I have OS4 installed on my Amiga 4000, and I don't know why. To be honest, Morpho seems to be snappier to me, but to be honest, right now I've been using mainly classic, but I've got fond memories of MorphOS. Although I think OS4 is pretty decent nowadays as well. So it's maybe even between these three.
Yeah, the problem is. Sorry,
I haven't used Aros, to be honest. I've seen it on some videos. I've seen a lot of videos of Aros. It seems very snappy. But I haven't used it, honestly.
It's very fast.
It's ridiculous because, you got the full power of whatever PC you're running it on.
Yeah.
And it's very, very thin and lightweight. It's like all these OSs are.
Yeah, because they are very lightweight. That's the thing.
That's it. So it's ridiculous. It feels like, there's something wrong here. Where's the lag?
I installed it natively once, so I didn't use a virtual machine. I just got a completely blank hard drive and a laptop. And oh my God, the euphoria of pressing the power button and having a desktop before your hand was back on your desk.
5 seconds? 3 seconds?
On mine, it would boot into Aros before my monitor could sync. so as soon as the monitor turned on,
when you bought it with a faster response.
It's about 1 second, 2 seconds max.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Nice,
but it's very impressive. But
really nice.
I was going to say there, OS4 on a classic is possibly not the most fun. Just because you're saying you had it on the 4000. It's
well, Cyberstar PPC. It's pretty decent. That it was, at that time. I'm talking, times of Amiga OS 4.0, and comparing to 1200 was really painful because I've used both, and on 1200 it was a painful experience, especially on a standard controller, hard drive controller. It's so painfully slow. Even though you add buffers, you try to speed it up, with every possible way, still it doesn't do the job.
Yeah.
And the Cyberstorm PPC's got that, like a SCSI, the Ultra SCSI actually controller, which is like pretty
Yeah,
decent
it's
even
nice, yeah.
nowadays. It's like 30 megabytes per second. So it was really fast, both MorphOS and Amiga OS Amiga OS 4.0. So I just can't complain,
Yeah, no, it's something I haven't actually got a PowerPC Classic myself, so I've only used it occasionally. But yeah, it's a world of difference to a G4 machine, and it's the same.
Absolutely.
And the same with MorphOS. If you've used MorphOS on a Classic and then you use it on an old Mac, it's like oof.
Yes,
the speed
it is.
of this.
The difference is very noticeable. Really.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, we've got some listener feedback. So I can't remember what medium this came through.
It was a Polish Amiga portal.
Okay, it was on PPA, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so Flea, thank you so much for your lovely comment. The podcast is just a balm to my heart. That has to be the nicest comment we've had so far. Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, well, we're over time, so bye to everybody listening, including Flea, who's now our favourite listener.
Listener of the month.
Yeah, there you go. Music was by Virtual Dimensions and Banjo Guy Ollie, and we're going to play out with lads. Have you played Spy vs. Spy on the Commodore or the Amiga?
Oh, loads.
On the Atari, I have to say, I haven't played it on the Amiga.
The Atari,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Loads.
Yeah. Well, Lukhash, who has a site, lukhash.com, and he's also got a Bandcamp link and a YouTube channel, which I'm going to link to here, has very kindly allowed us to use his Commodore 64 remixed version of the Spy vs. Spy theme tune. It's absolutely brilliant. So, bye from us all here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Chop hair glue there.
Use your words, Luke.
Yeah.